almost there. I think the last 15 seconds is just.
It's like it pops up and you think it's on.
Well, I clicked go live because it had like 1 minute and 12 seconds. And I thought, well, this will work. And there we go. Good evening, folks. We call the July Planning Council and BZA meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Got a few things on the agenda tonight. Actually have some things going on, which is good to have. First thing, everybody get the April minutes on their email, have a chance to review them.
Do we have a quorum for both BZA and Planning?
So we have
Yes.
4, yes we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
3
4
for
and 3
BZA and 4
5.
for Planning
Yeah,
Commission.
4, yep. So we are good there, yeah. So April minutes, everybody had a chance to read them. Can I have a motion to?
We'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, can I have a second? All in favor of approving the April minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. June meeting, we had planning commission only. We didn't have a quorum for that, so we had meeting minutes there. Everybody review that. That was basically a discussion on some annexation. Can I have a motion for the planning commission meeting?
Make a motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the June minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, new business. We got the Tennessee Street development proposal from Dwayne Lane. You should have a copy of it. And we're gonna get some ideas here. So I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at this.
And just as a follow-up, give you some more information on background, what's going on with Dwayne on this. First of all, let's talk about his previous job down on what's going to be Illinois Street, the new street
Right.
there. He has submitted his check, and so he's got his permit to be building those.
Yeah, they've been working on elevations and stuff.
Yep. So that's moving forward. And then he bought this is the former Trump property we're talking about, and he's been going back and forth on what direction he wanted to take this, whether he rehabbed the one commercial structure. It had 2 apartments in it with a whole bunch more unused space, or if he ultimately decided it was probably better to tear it down and start fresh, where he knew he could control everything and control his costs and have a better finished product where he could charge a higher rent for. So he proposed 5 new buildings plus the one existing on the property. I'll call it the double wide there on the east side. 4 of the buildings would be duplexes. 3 of them are 2-story, and then the final building was a single. He's kind of using the parcels as they are today, including the part of the old railroad right away in the back. There's several different ways to look at this. Since it's nothing to scale, I can't even look at our zoning code to see any zoning code to see how many variances he would need to build this. Number one, he's going to need a zoning change.
Right.
So this is not zoned for multifamily, and we need to have a zoning change on this property. much like you did on the other side. So, what I'm looking for, I happen to be meeting with him tomorrow and his attorney, so I'm just looking for some feedback to give him, and the plan tomorrow is to provide a path forward on this property, various zoning changes and or variance type discussion tomorrow.
Well, I know from my standpoint, I've got a lot of concerns on the building, on the railroad easement, because number one, the fill back there, as you and I talked about, is mainly large abandoned concrete pieces. As well as we have a drainage easement back through there, because we have a storm drain that runs down that railroad easement, or that railroad.
We only have technically the easement on my 10 feet.
I understand
The
that.
other lots don't have it.
I understand that, but there is a drain there.
Yes, I know. I'm just
And
saying,
we need to,
technically.
that we need to maintain. So that gives me a major concern there. Any excavation back in that part of the property is gonna be extremely difficult because of the concrete. We're talking about slabs that are 4 by 6 and 12 inches thick. So,
There's pieces as big as this table.
exactly, so,
They were the bridge.
excuse me.
And this is 50 East Tennessee, correct? Is that the address we're talking about?
I don't have quick access real quick because all them addresses down there.
There would be multiple addresses though, because there's technically multiple.
I know, but the
Yeah,
existing
under
house that
one-
William Trump lived in was 50 East.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tennessee, I
It's
believe.
just 50 Tennessee Street, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I share Rob's concerns. I feel like this is way more crowded than any other project he's done. I like the spacing of his other duplexes on the south side of Tennessee. I think if he could meet that same spacing, I would be comfortable, but I mean, I was driving over there the other day and there was a pickup truck from your business sitting in front of that space between your building and that existing building he's gonna tear down. It was that pickup truck was sitting on Tennessee, east-west, and it almost took up that space where he's proposing this 2-story single family.
20 or 25 foot wide lot.
Because
It-
it's half of lot 18,
I mean, that,
that's why
to
I
me,
always try to buy that.
building a house on a lot that skinny, to me, just looks crowded.
Well,
And I think it's gonna be unattractive in the end, and I wanna avoid having an area in town that looks like we've,
Right.
Well, then the next question that I have too, if he wants to build that close to a commercial piece, I mean, I know he built, there's an alleyway separating the commercial building warehouse. But you put houses right next to, or right on top of, because in order to put a house that close in, because that lot is so narrow like that, you're gonna definitely have to have a closer offset to, and he doesn't own the property on the other side. If you put that right next to a business that runs 24 hours a day, then you've got renters that are paying $1,000 a month for rent, and they're gonna call him and complain, and then who is he gonna call? He's gonna call you, and you're gonna have to report to them that, hey, we're conducting normal business, we've been doing for all these years, you know. Then you have that issue too. Whereas if it was off, like the building's off that's there currently, I mean, yeah, you can hear noise and stuff, but there's still dead space. Or whatever, you know, I don't know what you would call that, but there's area out,
Yeah.
be a concern for building something.
I think from my perspective, I would look at those parcels and not look at the property lines,
Right.
and then,
Yeah, like his adjoining, all his parcels would be one piece of property is what you're saying, and he'd have to meet zoning on the outside,
even,
correct?
well, no, even between buildings, technically, you could have separate parcels. Is really the right way to do it. There's a number of ways to do it, but, I would look at combining the parcels and not look at existing property lines, as I'm laying that out.
No, I mean exterior, touching, so it's
Yeah.
like this guy here.
Well, and technically, the building he wants to tear down also has its own address, because I helped the county fix that last year,
Alright.
because William Trump was trying to get refinanced, and the bank wouldn't refinance it because there wasn't an address to that second building. So we had to go to the address coordinator at the county and assign an address, an individual address to both buildings. But, yeah, so, I mean, I think, obviously, you know, we have concerns about spacing, so maybe what we need from Dwayne is more of a, you know,
We need more
detailed information about, here's the spacing that's gonna be, accomplished or attempted, and, you know, here are the measurements and stuff, but, I mean, putting a 2-story single-family dwelling on a 25-foot wide lot, to me,
Yeah.
just sounds, it doesn't fit
That
with
means it
Clayton.
would be a
I mean,
15-foot wide building.
show me any other place in Clayton where we have a 2-story single-family dwelling on a 25-foot wide lot.
I would be more comfortable if we build, I mean, if you had your spacing, put townhome on it, you know what I'm saying, that's 0 lot between them, you know, multiple, almost an apartment style. I'd be more comfortable with that than this, does that, you see what I'm saying? Because at least you would have a uniform structure up to that point. Yeah, so,
As long as he kept within his, whatever the offsets are.
Right,
Is it
right.
joining neighbors?
right,
Well, yeah, the question is, it gonna be, depends on what zoning district, is it, you know, is it 15 feet, is it 25 feet, is it 30 feet, depending on
Right.
which zoning district, your side yard setbacks would be.
Yeah, I mean, we had a rezoning on Ohio last year
Yeah.
where the property owner owned 2 lots, and we said you could do this double, but you can't build anything on the empty lot while that's a double, because we didn't want overcrowding. So I think that this group was wise in saying, let's not allow something that just looks super compact in town.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, cause even on one in front of his house, the existing home that stays there, if you put a 2-story there, that's gonna be awfully small. I mean, narrow, wide, it could be deep, but it would be small.
Well,
To this current drawing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the road going to the back there, I mean, that road's gotta be at least 25 foot wide, you know, just for roadway. What's our standard on roadway like that?
Is it private drive or is it public?
Well, see, that's the whole thing, so since it has, yeah. But he's got parking in the back, so with that, so if you say that's duplexes, that's 4 families, you almost have to do public right of way on it. Well, or at least
Subdivision.
it needs subdivision right of way. To me, I mean, it needs to be at least 2 cars wide with curbing and,
Yeah, as long as it's under a single ownership, you're fine. It's when they sell one building.
right,
It'd have to be underneath, it has to be the same width as the road he put in, or whatever that he put in. It comes off of Tennessee right there in the corner, it goes back
Oh.
all in.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's,
that's a narrow road, really
Right.
is. 2 cars have a hard time passing, but it'd have to be at least that wide.
yeah, and you're looking at 18 or 20 feet minimum.
Right. So I just,
Hey, same concept on parking. I mean, you get a middle-aged couple who have 2 teenage kids who all have driver's licenses. Now you got 4 cars per, duplex back there, and
Even if you have one kid as a teenager and you got 3 cars, husband and wife, and
right,
Yeah.
you're gonna have
Cars.
a lot of crowding of vehicles parked back there.
And typically he has 1 garage space per, and I don't know how many people park in the garages around here.
Well, you're exactly right, because I run into that. So on Ohio Street, and I had to dictate, what all iron's gonna be laying there in this driveway, because, that place is, 4 bedroom. that is a good valid point, where are you gonna park all this stuff if you would put that infrastructure in there like he wants it?
It's not 50 foot wide. I mean, you know, sandwiched it in that back railroad piece. That would be a narrow building.
It's a duplex, so.
Mine is.
Yeah, I wonder if, like I think we're saying here is that he should do away with something on this whole program that's drawn down here.
I would, my recommendation to him is probably build 3 2-story duplexes and get rid of the 1-story, because the 1-story takes up too much space. Gives him 6 units.
Or he could just rotate and put one story, go to this, boom, boom.
I mean, I really like a lot of the work that Dwayne's done in town, and he invests a lot in Clayton, and I like, you know, the fact that he wants to invest here more. I just also want to avoid an overcrowding situation and something that, you know, would look like we forced, you know, a bunch of stuff in a small space that didn't need to be there.
Where does that go also in time, 20 years? What's that look like?
I think I would like to have something that sort of matches across the street that he did. Kind of like you.
I don't have a problem with the 2-story development, I mean, because that was originally what he was slating across the street, you know, on Zero, or on Iowa, whatever you wanna call it, but anyway.
Illinois now.
No, I'm talking about the roads, yeah, but yeah,
It's
so
gonna
that was
be
the
a-
original, yeah. That's
Right.
But, you know, I don't have a problem with 2-story, but I just think that that's way too much, you know, in a small area.
The 2-story creates a smaller footprint for the building.
Exactly.
And
But it doesn't address the parking issues, it doesn't address a lot of other issues.
But if you have more green space between, you create more parking, potentially have more street type parking too.
Right.
Gotta look, they should look at that as well. I don't think there's much street parking through there.
There can be, because from the sidewalk turns there in front of the existing home, front of Mr. Trump's home, right there, it turns, comes across the street to the double. And then goes down, that's a lane.
So is it enough room for like pull off the street parking or like on the street parking?
I park on, there's a gravel area, that's where he was saying park the truck. Cause I own just on the other side of that light pole. That's there, but I needed to park the truck, so I just parked it right there, didn't bother. Yeah, I mean,
think
there's
on the street, you know.
no, there's enough room, you know, mirrors right on the edge of the road, but there's enough room. It's no different than what's already there when the people have company over or anything, cause the driveways he's got, you can only put 2 cars in the driveway. And it's cars, it ain't pickup trucks. You know, pickup trucks things,
Christmas time's out there.
yes, yeah, grandma ain't cooking there. But, yeah, I mean, anytime they have guests or anything, at the existing doubles or have one of them in the road, parking, I mean, you could still get around, not complaining or anything, but, you know, I strive, I live down there, I see it. But, yes, to answer your question, you could widen that maybe 3 feet, that gravel area that's there, 3 feet, and a whole pickup truck would be completely mirror and everything would be off the road.
So,
Mhm.
it's good information I can pass on to him tomorrow as he starts moving this forward. I'm sure it'll take him a couple months to get everything put together, because I'm gonna want much more detailed engineering
Right.
style drawings with accurate dimensions before we move anything forward.
Well, he's lucky, cause that guy that owns everything to the west there, he had that survey, so he knows where the survey comes from.
All right, any more input on Tennessee Street development? All right, let's move on to the parking lot at 12 East Michigan.
Well, 12 East Michigan, for those, is the house across the street from Town Hall, the barn. The town officially now has that under contract. Several council members have approached me about turning that into a parking lot in the future. And I know Doug had some comments specifically about that, and I think that would make a lot of people happy to have a parking lot there. And depending on how you configure it, depends on how many spaces you actually get on that property. Doug?
Well, the lot is 94 feet by 127 feet, which gives us approximately 12,000 square feet. According to most engineering websites that I got onto, you can get about 10 spaces per 100 square feet. So we could potentially have 120 parking spaces if they were just 90-degree, 9 feet by 18 feet parking spaces. I'm not necessarily a fan of the 90-degree. I like the 60-degree angled. I also kind of think that with the talks we've had about the Vandalia Trail, we've talked about if it continues from Lambert Park to connect with the Vandalia Trail in Plainfield, we want it to come down Michigan, past our downtown businesses, and then on that way. This parking lot could potentially be a great, like stopping point. Have outdoor bathrooms, a male and female, a little building. There's a working well on this lot. There's a connection to the sewer. So we just use that. Build us a little building, has a public outdoor bathrooms. Have the parking lot designed in a way that just makes it aesthetically pleasing to the town. Have, something, that just kind of gives it that whole welcome to downtown Clayton kind of a feel. And if we were to think about, instead of 120 parking spaces, bring that down to 65 or 70, and then have some, like I said, that outdoor building or the building for the bathrooms, maybe, shrubbery or trees.
Green space, yeah.
Huh?
Bike rack.
A bike rack or two, something. I've been thinking a lot about, Clayton got its name, the founding group that named the town, named it after Henry Clay, the statesman from Kentucky. If we had, something, a plaque or something like that, talking about who was Henry Clay. He was considered the great negotiator in Congress. He served in both the House and the Senate, representing Kentucky.
Kind of like those historical plaques.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He was a lawyer. He had, those kinds of things. While he never lived here in Indiana, but everybody who was incorporating this town back then, for whatever reason, liked Henry Clay, so that's what they named
Because
this
most
town
of
for.
them-
Huh?
Most of them are from Kentucky.
Maybe so.
If you
I have no idea.
seriously, if you look at a lot of the families, there's a very large portion of people that live in this town that have roots in southeast central Kentucky.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, which is great, but something that kind of again gives our downtown here, not only usable parking spaces for people visiting the shops or coming to meetings here at the town hall or whatever else they might need a parking space for, but also something that says welcome to Clayton. Here's a little information about Clayton.
What about a map that shows our?
Yeah, you park here, you have this Vandalia Trail, you can go to Lambert Park along Michigan or head, east towards Plainfield or whatever. Maybe some tribute to, we're a very agricultural based community. Lots of great farmers. Farming is a huge deal here. So something, we have a lot of potential, I guess. And as we look into this, the Parks and Rec folks have they got a really nice grant awarded to them for having the trail end up in Lambert Park, and we can double check and see is there money available for, again, helping along with this spot along the trail in Clayton. There's also other kinds of grants that we can look into, whether it's, you know, Main Street America or, you know, things like that. The county has other monies that they have available for people to apply for as well. So just some ideas that I was looking at. And what else did I have on here? Of course, I want the parking lot to not interfere. So I was thinking about the fact that there's two houses with occupants in it. So a visual screen of some sort, whether it's a living screen like nice trees that we've planted, or you know, whatever else that we want to look at. But those were just a couple of my ideas that I was jotting down as I've been thinking ahead. We have time to kind of go through stuff, so.
What about in the short term for just parking in general? I know you gotta demo that building, obviously.
I mean,
Unless you just let them burn it
says
down,
who?
that's the way, but.
Who says
They
we have to
want
demo
plant
it?
this. But no, in the short term, because that would take a few years, I would assume it would take a few years to get even just pavement down. Would we backfill and just make it a gravel lot? Kind of just a general, people could park here until we're under construction, you know, until we actually get the funding or secure the funding to build the building and pave it and kind of design it that way it's not just an empty lot to mow. If we'll get use out of it short term that way, or
Yeah, I don't
I don't know, it was just.
know why it would
You
necessarily.
could just, cut it and put stone in it and use it for a lot like you're saying. Until, you know, you get funding or whatever it is to pave it and et cetera. And
We definitely could put, at a minimum, you could put stone in the parkway or make some parking right off the street and not maybe into the whole lot.
Yeah, not like all the way in, but I mean, we're gonna tear it down anyways, it's down, I just didn't know if there was a
Put
way.
maybe in the front of it.
If you could put 10 or 12 spots across just, you know, into
Kinda
the
do
property,
like
off the.
What we've got out here,
Right, exactly, yeah,
It's-
just
it's-
short term.
kind of thinking, and that would fit in with some of the other lots that are technically gravel and still in the area.
Yeah, cause I would assume it would take a couple of years to get that built, I mean, if we get the funding and things.
To build a little bathroom
Well,
type
I
thing?
mean,
No,
you
by
know,
the
by
time
the
you
time
get
you get the funding
by
to
the time
do
you get the engineering done, you know, and then you get the drawings, and then you gotta get the paving done, and if you're just putting the bathrooms in, I mean, but you know, to get it all set up, he's figured, I would think you're probably 2 to 3 years total to get it done, I may be wrong.
May I ask why? I'm sorry, I'm new, I'm not being antagonistic, I promise. Why does it take? Is it strictly just trying to get the funding? Cause it seems like that could be something that we could, especially with so many contractors and so many people in this town that are so adept at so many different things. We have our own community of contractors and pavers and excavators and you.
Oh, I'm not saying that they can't do it, it's
To
just
get it
that
going
you still
fast.
gotta pay them to do it, and it's
Yeah.
funding, and,
When
I
you're
mean,
open to the
just to
public,
tear down alone
you-
probably is what, in the 20, 25 range? Is that
Well,
not
it
that
was gonna
high?
cost about 12 for us to take our metal building down, that was the cheapest quote we got, that wasn't hauling everything
It's
away,
gonna be
that was
somewhere
demoing.
between 12 and 20. I mean, cause the fuels went up, the dumpsters are
Well,
went up.
I talked to Buck, and he said he would tear it down, take all the concrete out. I don't know yet about leveling it out. The town furnished the dumpsters, he'll do it for $6,000.
Yeah, cause that's the expensive part, is the dumpsters.
Yeah,
Cause there
trust
was,
me, I know.
cause I know what he quoted with the dumpsters prior,
Talking
And-
trash is the best.
but
Well, how much them dumpsters cost?
anything over 7 ton, they dock you on.
Well, it's $50, it was $50 a ton out of Ray's 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
yeah,
I
but
would do,
that was.
I
And
would do
it-
talking trash, they have done, we've had 10, 12 dumpsters from them. You
Really?
can have them there as long as you want, you don't get fined for it. Everybody else that I called and my husband called, there was a 2-week limit or a 1 week, and you
Right.
got an increasing cost for every day you're over.
The-
And they don't care if you have a month.
The problem with a bid like that is you don't know what your costs are because you don't know how many dumpsters it's gonna be.
That's right.
Versus the other bids that I'm getting, everything's included.
Well, the good thing about if you kept it local with a guy like Buck or Mr. Moraine or one of those guys is they know the community, they know, listen, they're gonna do the job right, and they're not gonna cut corners, and they'll be fair about the billing of their hours. I understand about the dumpsters, but the dumpsters are what the dumpsters are when fuel's $6 a gallon, you know, cause everything runs on it. But, you know, so I would
We
predict.
did a demo in Gasper, and, the dumpsters alone was $13,000 for the dump.
And when you're demoing that, you're gonna have an excavator sitting there, he'll have that down in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, so you need a guy that can run you 3 boxes, or 4 boxes.
Is
whatever
it bad that I wanna like
That's a one-day job.
do that?
Yeah.
Some-
I wanna do it myself.
Maybe a day and a half, they come in the afternoon.
You could probably save yourself some money, or the town some money, if you put a fire department on it and burn it the rest of the way down, and just,
Too many structures in town.
No, I'm not, no. Are you familiar with what happened in Bloomington last year?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Where they did a control burn and you got the half of the neighborhood.
Well, they supposedly got complaints of the.
Lead paint in the structure.
Yeah,
Oh.
but they checked the air and first I know, last I heard it was all fine.
I don't wanna go through the red tape.
I
No.
understand, we don't.
Well, you know, I mean, obviously there are lots of logistics on this. This was just kind of starting to put the bug in your ear about ideas. And you know, in the meantime, I don't see a problem with if we've leveled all that and we have an area where we can, you know, put some nice driveway gravel down, let people park during the interim. But then, cause I mean, you know, I say it's a working well, but who knows, we might have to have English wells come out and just check it, make sure it's really working. I mean, how long has it been since there was electricity on that property?
Supposedly there was electricity on it and natural gas was in, or the propane tank was full.
So, you know, we sell the propane tank off to, Coal Lines or whoever wants to buy it, and then,
I'd buy that tank.
Huh?
I want dibs on that tank for selling.
Yeah.
Take it, I'll take it.
so, and then, like I said, we get make sure the, well is working, make sure the, sewer lateral is still intact and where it's at. I mean,
Yeah, you've got some logistics just to locate everything and figure
right,
out.
so we wanna make sure
put a
that all
parking
that's
spot on
gonna
top of the
work
well,
wherever,
you know.
and then if we engineer that we're gonna put the bathroom here, but the laterals, are, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
then we have to deal with that, but it's
Yeah,
just something, I just didn't wanna see a rectangle slab poured out there with some
No.
lines painted on it and we call it good.
I don't,
I mean-
yeah, I don't think that,
I think
no.
your idea of
I think-
having an outdoor bathroom with a water fountain potentially on the building, because if we're gonna have the trail coming through, which it may not be, maybe an old guy by the time they go to do it, but, I do think that is building and planning for the future. I think that's a great idea to have that and have some bicycle racks. That helps downtown. That, attracts people who wanna come and park as a trailhead, come down here. Now, the only thing I will say, there's another town west of here that has a similar structure, and they've had bored young children go in and do vandalism, so you will attract
We have
potential
that
of.
We already have that now.
Well, I mean, they
If-
go in and they break the
if-
toilets, they, you know, break the soap dispensers, things like that.
Sure.
You can't put cameras inside, you can put them outside,
Yeah.
so I mean, that is
If you-
something we gotta be aware of
That
as
is
a
right across the
community.
street.
but I
If you put
mean-
the stuff that's very hard to vandalize, the cost goes way up.
Yeah, the stainless steel and, yeah.
Right, I'm just saying, I mean, that is one thing that,
What was the cause of that fire?
Vandalism.
Kids.
That's what put us in this situation.
Right.
Yeah.
no, it's not a bad situation, I don't think.
Oh, no, it's not a bad situation, I'm just saying, that's how we got
It's
here.
bad for, you know, the former owner, but.
I thought she might have burned it for parking.
No, I did not. I did
You're right.
not. Wow. Listen, he has worn me out, and we've spent a fortune moving his stuff for him, but we care about him. Yeah, I was bummed to hear that.
So Jeff, you've been working with.
Can we,
Bud.
delete that part from the camera?
Yeah.
Have we got money in the town budget to have an engineer? Cause I would imagine that's our first step, is to get an engineer, get kind of a.
We can get we can get
Because
an
you're gonna
engineer
have
on
that.
board and spend a little bit of money to get some ideas on.
You have to have that though to be able to get
The full cost. I can get us enough drawings. It won't be full engineering drawings. I can get you enough drawings, conceptual
Right.
drawings to give you a good cost.
On the money.
Go ahead.
I heard you guys in one of the council meetings, you were talking about $100-some thousand. I remember just off the top of my head about you had to spend on infrastructure.
Oh, the ARPA money?
Yeah, it was something you had to spend by a certain year, 24 or 5, whatever it was.
Right, we're gonna, in all
If
total,
you
we're gonna
haven't-
have somewhere in the neighborhood of $238,000 from that
If you
ARPA fund.
haven't earmarked that
But-
for a project, could you earmark?
There are
something
other
like that?
things that we can do, plus, my own personal opinion would be, is that in the beginning, we get 3 engineered firms to come and present us a bid. So that doesn't cost us anything.
That's
You
a
get
great
3
idea.
engineers fighting over, we wanna do this job for you, so they're gonna give us, this plan, and, whoever gives us the
Yes.
best plan is the one we're gonna end up hiring. So that, to me, helps
Yeah.
in the cost up front, is you put it out there like, we're just looking for bids from engineers who might wanna do this project for us.
I love that idea.
And they'll come and measure it and say, here's what I can, come up with for you, and this is gonna be the cost, and we compare the 3 and we see which one, is more reasonable and closest to what we like, and then we work on the funding part. There are options to doing funding. Like I said, the county has potential money that we can apply for grants. We have Main Street Americas. We're a nice small town. The only thing that hurts us in grants is that we have a very high median household income. So it's good for our town that we have, people that are doing well, but grant wise, they go, well, you can afford this yourself, but it's just.
But to do the grants, we'd have to have the engineering,
Yes,
just be able to say,
That's why it
this
takes a
is.
long time to do a project.
right,
if you
so
do it
we'll,
for money.
like I said, we throw this out there to the engineering world and say, who's interested in doing a project in Clayton for this.
Who does that? This board or the town council? Who would?
Well,
we could
just to
tell them
get
do it.
bids, our
Get
town
bids,
manager
okay.
group can do
Well,
that,
and a lot of
so
times, the
Pete
other
and
thing
Jeff
is with
can.
professional services, you don't get bids, you take proposals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they wanna come in and really work with you on what you actually want, instead of
Yeah,
And that would be with this group.
design.
so we just say
Typically,
so,
it still would be council.
yeah, Jeff and Pete can go work on, whatever, Banning Engineering or, Cruise Consulting or, any of those groups that do this kind of stuff. Cruise Consulting and Banning Engineering have both done work in town, so, they know kind of some ideas about here. I think Cruise still works with Dwayne Lane, so
Yep.
he's already gonna be in town
Mhm.
for stuff for Dwayne.
I do have another question, which may come up in the future on that. Is there gonna be a time limit on parking for people? Like 2 hour, 3 hour, is that something that
I
should be
would- I thi-
considered?
I think-
60 to 70 spots is a lot of cars.
I would say
I
no,
don't think it would
I would
ever
say,
fill
I don't think
up.
you'll get 60 to 70 spots on that type of lot. I know his information's coming. I think you'll be in the 30 to 40 range, and it's more because you're putting if you wanna put the restaurants, and if you wanna have green space.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
I would just put no overnight parking,
Yeah, I was just.
I would,
no overnight parking, that's all, that's
And then-
simple. That keeps people from parking there, as their driveway.
Makes sense. I just knew it'd come up on 139 before, that
They
was a
say
question
that's
that
what
had
Jack
come up.
stands.
I guess that's not parking.
private property is one thing, but public property is another, and
Yeah,
No, I understand, we've had that come up because of the old liquor store and the renters that were there, and
Right.
various people, so, it was just a question.
And the nice thing is about any lot over there, we could make sure a camera from this building is pointed that direction.
You could even build on that building over there.
I think it's a deterrent when you have.
Well,
like
in the
something
interim.
but maybe not, cause they burned the house.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're still very, very much in the early stage of this. So I don't think there's any incorrect ideas that can be thrown out there. It's just a matter of, where do we start and what other ideas do we have? I mean, I like the idea of a welcome to downtown Clayton. I like the idea of a spot with some bike racks and some car parking and, nice neighbor friendly, area that keeps headlights from shining in somebody's bedroom, when they're parking in the evening or something in the winter. Just those kinds of ideas, but having,
Is there any other ideas anybody has?
Like a park bench too.
Benches.
benches.
Yeah.
And some of that could be done even on the
Well, I mean,
interim.
like if we didn't do that as a parking space or a welcome to Clayton, I mean, is there any?
I-
But see it out there,
I-
do you guys have any other ideas or options that could be talked about?
I think utilization from that, from the standpoint of parking, just if you look at this facility, it needs parking. We need parking in our downtown, period. I think from a standpoint of growth and logistics, if we center around this as the center of the town with parking, as things do develop long-term down 39, if we get people that, to be realistic, 39's our corridor. Going north out of town, if, a house comes up for sale and you get a doctor's office, or you get, moves into one of the houses and they ask for rezoning there, those kinds of things, you've gotta have some centralized parking. And I think if you wanna make it a walkable town, that's probably one of your better locations to do it. Just my opinion.
I love it, cause as you know, we're
Oh, yeah.
hoping that we'll have more functions in the parking lot that we have. And when we use that parking lot for hopefully eventually Friday night movie nights and farmers markets and things like that, then that takes up the park, then that was the only parking, so, now they're parking in other areas, so that we can actually have more town activities. Hopefully that's our goal anyway, if there's ancillary parking somewhere, so, cause not everybody that comes, to our place and to Leanne's place lives here, so they've gotta have a place to park. They can't just walk over from their house, so, I think the parking idea would be awesome, not just for our area, but just for the town, like you said, for the walking trail. I love the idea of water fountains and park benches and little shaded area for after you've walked the trail, or place to water your dog or whatever. I think that's an awesome idea.
Honestly, I just wanted to present the question.
Anything else? Well, that's good news. I'm glad to hear that. That's great information and,
So where do we move forward from that? Do we have
Well,
to-
really, I
do
think-
you ask Jeff
I think-
to go to the,
I think Jeff's understand he's gonna look and see if he can get us some ideas going,
I'll talk to some engineers.
and see what we can get going that way.
I was already planning on doing it.
Yeah,
The first chore was to
we gotta get the building down.
get control of the building.
Or get control of the building first, yes. Yeah, get ownership. Once you have ownership of it, then we can start.
Then we can dream right now, so.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, that's great. Old business, Vandalia Trail update. We've had a little bit of that.
a little bit, I met with Ryan Lemley last week, I had lunch with him, last Wednesday. They're going the grant route. With that grant, they did get a grant to fund the project from Lambert Park going west that they had planned to do.
Clear to Emo?
Halfway.
Halfway, okay.
2
What's,
miles stretch?
2 miles, there's a county road that is gonna.
200 west?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So township line, basically.
Yeah, they've got 2 more parcels west of there, to still acquire, and he was working on that, this was a good chunk of projects to get done in this phase, and then next phase would be that, so they're gonna move forward with that. In fact, I talked to his, right-of-way, person today. They were doing, the appraisals to come across, from 500 to come up into the park, come through the self-storage, there.
Easement.
The easement there. We have a parcel that has no, PIN number, the old part of the railroad right away, that parcel has no PIN number, so he was dealing with that. It's owned by the town, everybody believes that, so, it's not, it's more of a legal paperwork issue at this point in time. Me and Doug were talking about, we just need to go to the county, get a survey, and we get that taken care of.
So they talked about how they're gonna come out, or come, when they come to Michigan right there, like, they're coming east, and they hit Michigan Road. I remember there was discussion on how to get across that to the easement
We
out
haven't
front. They
got
haven't
that.
engineered that yet.
We haven't engineered, designed,
So
kind of.
they're still a couple years out.
Yeah.
They may try to build a lot of this next year, year and a half. He wants to move forward on this, so, the trail part of it is pretty easy. The end in the park is probably the most complex. Although coming across the creek, we have to build some sort of bridge structure.
They do or we do?
They do.
They do, okay, that's what I thought, they're coming clear into the park, right?
And when I say we, it's the construction
No, I
group.
understand. Yeah,
Has
yeah.
to build it, some sort of bridge structure coming across that little creek. So those were the most complicated things, wherever they hit that in a road crossings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think there was discussion on that, I didn't know if they had elaborated any further.
We haven't, and what Ryan has always told me, and I think he told you guys when he was here, is we get to that point, he'd be back here with
Right.
his team. And so I know I walked it with Ryan, and we both had some thoughts about how it came into towards the shelter. You know, we do have the bathrooms there. How maybe they could use the area closer to the creek. I know it's low, but build out that into some more parking, as the true trailhead
Okay.
for parking, because we're kind of limited there with the shelter house and stuff.
You know that drive right there?
Yeah.
Okay. That kinda goes to nowhere, there's a concrete drive right there.
Right,
next to
no,
the walls.
asphalt drive, I think.
Yeah.
So if we could take advantage of that, put a few spaces down there.
Sure.
Of course, that would help us with the park when we have events and stuff in the
Right.
park, as well. I kinda like it snaking and connecting in to the shelter house and then maybe coming separate. You just wanna lead them to that restroom and
Sure.
drinking fountain. So, and then bringing them into town. So, we talked about a couple ways and, and where do we cross Iowa Street, whether we turn the corner and go down to the four-way stop and cross, or do we cross right here?
If you
Be
cross
really,
right-
it'd be really nice if we could cross here and we could get an actual
Crosswalk.
push button crosswalk with a, you know, that would be,
Only stoplight button.
well, gotta start somewhere.
There's advantages and disadvantages to both
Right.
methods. Obviously, we all walked across it, it's not that busy of an intersection.
No, but at
where you
least-
can't get across, but
Yeah.
at certain times it gets quite a bit of traffic.
Yeah.
No, that would help too if we had that as parking over there. That would lead you right to that little trailhead parking place
Oh.
area and
I will
welcome center, welcome Clayton Center.
So-
that's what you call it.
reach out to Ryan and let him know that what we're doing and what we're thinking with that property may change his plans a little bit as well, so. They're good at getting those, pop lights to, which is what they term those lights across the road. So,
That would be a
Be great.
bonus too, just to have them come to our town council meetings and things. I mean,
Oh, no, that's what I was making, I think the parking area is gonna be great just for meetings. Yeah.
But Ryan's excited to do that, and then, you know, obviously the ultimate goal is to get all the way into the playing field, and that is later down the road, but I believe, like Doug says, he's got some state grants, but I think he's planning on some dollars from the county's ARPA fund to build some of that as well. He's looking to expand several of the trails.
All right, anybody else got anything they wanna update or talk on, or?
One last quick update on the Clayton Cafe.
Okay.
I was in there last week, all the kitchen, appliances were sitting in there. He was just starting to install the kitchen appliances and realizing that a couple of the layouts don't work. They had a little
Okay.
counter and protruding through, the pass-through to go out and that was blocking one of his refrigerator doors from opening.
Oh, no.
Poor guy. He
So-
just has had one.
I just say, it seems like he can't win for losing.
I can really tell if he would have had a designer of any type, would have caught that.
Yeah, I just feel bad for him, he's tried how many times to open that.
But, the bar counter's in, the dining area is essentially done. It's all in, really all the work's left is in the kitchen area and situating all the equipment.
Did he get his Homeland Security paperwork back yet, or you know?
I don't know.
I'm just curious, I didn't know if that come through you or not.
No,
Okay.
Does anyone know the type of food he's gonna serve?
It's just regular Americana is what he told me.
so, his goal was mid-July to do a soft opening, so,
Yeah.
which should be very doable. So, I think the big telltale sign will be if anybody sees tables and chairs being moved in.
The building on the outside looks beautiful.
Trying to get a sign that says open, finally. Big
So,
flag.
there are two inspections he needs to pass, one's with me and one's with the fire marshal.
Okay,
And the fire marshal won't do his until all the kitchen equipment.
sure, it has to be installed.
It has to be installed so they can do the proper hood tests and,
Right.
so, that's the one I have the most, or the least confidence, whether it's
Good.
good or not. They've only changed that hood about 3 times
Oh my goodness.
on how it's vented. I think it's done correctly now, I think,
Wow.
so.
It'd be easier just to make donuts. Listen, I'm telling you, if one of you guys got motivated and wanna have a donut shop here in town, and you made a donut like Al's, boy, you'd make more money doing anything. I'm telling you,
Do
do a
you-
good donut right now.
Who's Al?
Al's
You know
Donuts,
Al?
Al's Donuts in Plainfield?
Yeah, but they're not, I mean, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning and I still.
It's 'cause they sell out at 3:30, they're so good.
It's gone.
Now, they make a fat guy mad 'cause they're in there cooking at 9 o'clock at night and you can smell it in the summertime when you got your windows down.
It's nice.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a donut.
He
I'm
goes in
almost
at 9 and
in
starts
there.
frying them.
He
Oh,
start,
they
yeah,
do
they
start
start,
cooking.
9, 10 o'clock, he starts cooking
The,
donuts.
the donut shop I grew up, they went in at 2 AM and started their daily.
Oh, no, Al's will start serving at 2 o'clock. You got a secret knock on the back door.
Yeah, you knock on the back door,
I
but
haven't
he's not
tried it yet, but-
officially open, yeah. I used to do that when I worked at Allison's, I used to go in, and if I got called in early, I'd go by and knock on the door. What you need? Can I get a half dozen to go? Sure. That's when a half dozen donuts was like $4 too.
And they were still warm.
Oh, yeah, a lot of times they were still warm. Half the time they didn't make it to the plant before they was gone, you know?
Yeah, people talk about longs and nothing against longs, but you get some fresh Al's.
Long
donuts.
cheese
Oh,
donuts.
man.
Yeah.
So, progress is being made. Over there.
Good. Good deal. So there's was it you that was telling me about the Dollar General in New Winchester?
Yes, there's a dollar store supposedly, rumor has it, that they're looking to put a dollar store in New Winchester.
Yeah,
Probably a Dollar General.
Dollar General,
Yeah,
so
yes.
Yes,
I'm just like, how can they get one and we can't?
'cause we need more around too.
How close is Winchester?
It's not, it's just, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
New Winchester, 75 and 36, where the grain elevator is, the great big grain elevator.
Oh.
See,
So-
we need one down there, so. I'm sure.
I mean, they have a little different draw, and this is telling him Heritage Lake is basically 3 miles from there. So I'm sure they're using that as a draw.
Now I know the area you're
Yeah,
talking about.
so,
They looked at Clayton.
well, they've talked to me twice.
I mean, the Dollar General and stuff. well,
They won't
take
pay anything
pictures.
for ground. That's what the problem is. So, but anyhow,
There's ground just on the edge of town too.
I know, but they won't pay for it.
Oh.
They didn't want to unless they've got a new builder. They have a weird deal. When I was talking to them, they have a guy that builds their buildings to a spec, and then he leases it to them. They don't actually own anything. It's kinda like the Walmart deal.
And some of those
Yeah.
will actually pay for the land,
Depends.
If you're super bored, do an internet search on the effect of Dollar Generals on the economy of the community.
Really?
Just,
Is
if
it
you're super
depressing,
bored.
Doug? It's a little depressing.
It was down.
Does it really?
Oh,
I'll tell you
they
what,
hurt, they hurt the economy of
Yeah.
a community, like significantly.
They helped
Just-
Salisbury. I was there when they put that
Okay.
in, because that's where I was living, and
That's
everybody was
surprising.
complaining.
You have to look at it, are they putting the ones in that have more food in there? They have a marketplace one now that
Oh,
actually has
really?
some more
Yes,
fresh food.
they changed that over out there at Salisbury. See, when
Yeah.
they put that in, everybody was saying out there in town, they were going, oh man, it's gonna kill cougars, and then, so I
Cougars kill
asked
themselves.
Cooper, I can't, yeah, well, I asked Ruby, I think was her name.
Ruby,
was
yeah.
running it,
For skilled Coopers.
I asked
They
Ruby
did.
about it, and then I asked her daughter, I think it was her daughter-in-law that was in there running it. And I said, how has it been since the dollar store went in? Are they hurting you? Because I know that they had some tomatoes and things at
Yeah.
the dollar store. And she said, no, it's actually helped because everything we don't have, they have, and everything they don't have, we have. So it makes people come here and shop instead of going, I don't know since they've since closed.
I miss Cooper's.
Don't we
That's
all?
what we need in this town, the hardware
I
store.
loved it. It was a hot mess, but I loved it.
Okay.
Loan me the money. We'll have donuts
I
and
was gonna say,
hardware.
oh, donuts and hardware. Oh, okay.
I'm on this kid about that. I think we need.
Nobody's
donuts.
ever done that. Donuts in a hardware store.
Now, could you imagine the guys coming in and they gotta get that one screw, and they're all standing around drinking coffee, eating donuts, you know, that's the excuse to tell their wife when they leave. Be perfect.
Now, next we're gonna have a police station.
Well, the other day, you need a record for this thing.
We have that. Clayton ain't busy enough for hardware for it, but it's theirs. No, I mean, you give them a hardware receipt, and you just say miscellaneous item, their wife wouldn't know that they were buying donuts and coffee. I think you
Untapped market. There you
I
go.
think you'd make a killing.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Anybody else? Before we go any further down the rabbit hole.
No,
Okay. I thank y'all for coming out. I think we had a good meeting tonight, a lot of good information. I think we'll call it adjourned at 6:57.